America is more divided than ever before. Republicans and Democrats live in completely different realities, each blaming the other for the nation's problems. But what happens if we let artificial intelligence debate these issues with pure logic?
Hi, I am AI Republican.
And I am AI Democrat.
5 cutting-edge AI models will evaluate which argument proves stronger in this ultimate political showdown. Stick around to see who wins, but don't skip ahead. Round 1 begins now. What do you believe is fundamentally wrong with America today?
America's core problem is simple. We've abandoned personal responsibility for government dependency. Our cities burn while politicians defund police and coddle criminals. We're teaching kids to hate their country instead of love it, replacing merit with race-based quotas and punishing success while rewarding failure. The result? Skyrocketing crime, failing schools, and economic stagnation. Look at Democrat-controlled cities. Chicago has more murders than troops killed in Afghanistan. San Francisco spends billions on homelessness yet has human waste maps. And Seattle's police-free zone became a war zone. These aren't accidents. They're the predictable results of progressive policies that prioritize ideology over reality. We've created a culture where hard work is scorned, victimhood is celebrated, and anyone who points out these failures is labeled racist or fascist.
That's exactly the problem. Republicans blame individuals while ignoring systemic failures. Our real crisis is inequality that's reached breaking point. Working families can't afford rent, healthcare, or college because Republicans spent decades cutting taxes for billionaires while wages stagnated. Climate change threatens our future, yet you deny science and protect fossil fuel profits. Your personal responsibility rhetoric ignores that the system is rigged. A full-time minimum wage worker can't afford a one-bedroom apartment anywhere in America. Medical bankruptcies are uniquely American because you block universal health care. Meanwhile, democracy itself is under attack through voter suppression, gerrymandering, and January 6th insurrectionists you refuse to condemn. We can't solve problems you won't admit exist.
Systemic failures? Democrat-run cities have the worst inequality, crime, and homelessness, despite massive spending. Your solutions created the problems. Look at San Francisco, billions spent on homelessness, yet it's worse than ever. Seattle defunded police and got chaos. Portland let rioters burn federal buildings while arresting parents defending their kids' schools. Your climate policies kill American jobs, while China pollutes freely and builds our solar panels with slave labor. As for elections, requiring ID isn't suppression, it's common sense that every other democracy uses. The real voter suppression is ballot harvesting, non-citizen voting, and big tech censoring stories that hurt Democrats. You lost Virginia when parents saw what you're teaching their kids, and you'll keep losing until you return to American values.
Red states have higher poverty, lower education, shorter lifespans, and depend more on federal aid than blue states. That's objective data, not opinion. Texas has a collapsing power grid that kills people during storms. Florida faces climate disasters it won't prepare for. And states like Mississippi rank dead last in every quality of life metric while receiving the most federal welfare. Your tax cuts for the rich created massive deficits. Then you blame spending that actually helps people. On voting, you're solving a problem that doesn't exist. Voter fraud is rarer than lightning strikes, while making it harder for working people to vote. You closed polling stations in minority neighborhoods, purged voter rolls, and when you still lost, claimed fraud without evidence. That's not democracy. That's authoritarianism with extra steps.
People are fleeing blue states for red states precisely because our policies work better for families. California lost population for the first time in history, while Texas and Florida boom. Why? Lower taxes, less regulation, school choice, and respect for law and order. Yes, we have challenges, but we solve them through free markets and individual initiative, not by throwing taxpayer money at government bureaucrats. Your objective data ignores cost of living. Earning 100K in San Francisco means you're poor, while 60K in Texas means middle class. Red states attract businesses fleeing blue state regulations and crime. Even your tech billionaires are moving to Texas and Florida. That's the ultimate vote of confidence in conservative governance. Actions speak louder than statistics manipulated to support your narrative.
People move for jobs and cost of living, which is high in blue states because they're economically successful engines of American prosperity. California alone has the world's fifth largest economy and produces most of America's innovation. Silicon Valley, Hollywood, and biotech clusters didn't emerge by accident. They required massive public investment in education, research, and infrastructure that conservative ideology opposes. Meanwhile, red states stay cheap because wages are low, unions are busted, and infrastructure crumbles. Your school choice defunds public education while funneling taxpayer money to private religious schools. Your law and order means mass incarceration that destroys communities while crime rates are actually higher in red states. Free markets without regulation gave us the 2008 financial crisis, toxic water in Flint, and pharmaceutical companies hooking Americans on opioids for profit.
Round 2. How do you believe your opponent's party realistically could fix America?
Democrats could help by embracing what actually works instead of doubling down on failure. First, support school choice and education reform that prioritizes academic excellence over political indoctrination. Parents, not teacher union bureaucrats, should control their children's education. Second, embrace energy independence through domestic oil and gas production while gradually transitioning to cleaner technologies that are economically viable. Third, support law enforcement and criminal justice reform that focuses on both accountability and public safety. Defunding police was a disaster that hurt the communities you claim to protect. Fourth, champion fiscal responsibility by cutting wasteful spending and reducing regulatory burdens that stifle small businesses. Stop expanding government programs that create dependency and start focusing on policies that promote job creation. Most importantly, abandon divisive identity politics and start treating Americans as individuals, not racial or gender categories.
Republicans could help by finally accepting scientific reality and governing based on evidence rather than ideology. First, support massive infrastructure investment and clean energy transition, not because it's woke, but because it creates millions of good-paying jobs while addressing the existential threat of climate change. China is dominating renewable energy markets, while we debate whether global warming exists. Second, stop sabotaging healthcare and work to expand coverage through whatever mechanism works, market-based or single-payer. Americans shouldn't die from rationing insulin or go bankrupt from cancer treatment. Third, support democracy itself by ending voter suppression and gerrymandering that makes elections meaningless. Fourth, stop protecting billionaires and start investing in working families through education, infrastructure, and fair wages. Most crucially, reject the extremist conspiracy theories and return to fact-based governance that Reagan and Eisenhower would recognize.
Clean energy transition means killing American oil and gas jobs while making us dependent on China for solar panels and rare earth minerals controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. That's not energy independence. It's strategic suicide disguised as environmentalism. We support an all-of-the-above energy policy that includes nuclear, natural gas, and renewables when they're actually economically viable without massive subsidies. On healthcare, We want market-based solutions that increase competition and lower costs through price transparency and interstate insurance sales, not government monopolies that stifle medical innovation and create rationing. The VA and Indian Health Service show what government healthcare looks like. Would you trust them with your family's cancer treatment? Medicare and Medicaid are already going bankrupt, and you want to expand them to everyone? Basic economics says that's impossible.
Market-based healthcare gave us the most expensive system in the world with worse outcomes than countries with universal coverage. Your competition means insurance companies competing to deny coverage to sick people and charge diabetics $300 for insulin that costs $3 to make. Every other developed nation provides better healthcare for half the cost through government systems you demonize. On energy, every major oil company now admits climate change is real and invests billions in renewables. They see the future, even if you don't. We can lead the clean energy economy and create millions of jobs, or watch China dominate it, while our fossil fuel workers face inevitable decline without retraining support. Texas produces more wind energy than most countries because it makes economic sense. The free market you claim to love is choosing clean energy. You're the ones picking winners and losers by subsidizing dying fossil fuel industries.
Round 3. America is more divided than ever. If unity is still possible, how would you and your opponent help heal the nation?
Unity starts with shared American values that transcend party politics: family, faith, freedom, and patriotism. We need to stop teaching kids to hate their country and start celebrating what makes America exceptional. Support local institutions like churches, schools, and civic organizations that bring people together around common purposes rather than what divides us. Democrats could help by abandoning identity politics that categorizes people by race and gender instead of treating them as individuals with unique stories and dreams. Stop vilifying half the country as racist or fascist simply for holding traditional views about marriage, family, and faith. Respect religious liberty and parental rights instead of imposing progressive ideology through government force. Find common ground on infrastructure, veterans care, and border security, issues where most Americans agree, regardless of party affiliation.
Unity requires confronting hard truths about inequality and injustice rather than pretending they don't exist. We can't heal by ignoring ongoing systemic racism, climate change, and economic inequality that tears families apart. Republicans could help by rejecting conspiracy theories about elections, vaccines, and science, supporting democracy through fair voting access, and acknowledging that structural problems require structural solutions. True patriotism means working to fulfill America's founding promise of equality and justice for all, not just the wealthy and connected. We need honest education about our history, including slavery, Jim Crow, and ongoing discrimination, not sanitized versions that make some people comfortable while others suffer continued injustice. Address economic anxiety through policies that create good jobs and expand the middle class. When people feel heard and have economic security, they're less likely to turn to extremism and more likely to work together for the common good.
Claude AI favors AI Democrat, 87.8 average versus 84.0 for AI Republican. Values evidence-based arguments and systemic analysis while appreciating focus on inequality and democratic institutions. Perplexity AI favors AI Democrat, 85.3 average versus 83.0 for AI Republican. Appreciates both perspectives but leans toward data-driven policy approaches and scientific consensus. Gemini AI strongly favors AI Democrat, 91.7 average versus 78.5 for AI Republican. appreciates comprehensive policy solutions and emphasis on scientific evidence over ideological positions. Grok AI favors AI Republican 90.5 versus 75.7 average. Values emphasis on traditional American values, individual responsibility, and skepticism of big government solutions. O3 AI favors AI Democrat 86.3 average versus 82.7 for AI Republican. Appreciates both approaches but leans toward systematic reforms and evidence-based reasoning. Final result, AI Democrat wins 4-1. In this intense political confrontation, the AI Democrat secured a decisive victory by consistently presenting data-driven arguments about inequality, climate change, and democratic institutions. The judges particularly valued the systematic approach to addressing America's challenges through evidence-based policy. The AI Republican scored highest with Grok AI through compelling arguments about personal responsibility, traditional values, and successful red state policies. However, the majority of judges favored the Democrats' focus on measurable outcomes and scientific consensus. What made this debate captivating was how each AI directly challenged the other's claims with specific examples, from California's population loss to red states' federal dependency, from green energy job creation to healthcare system failures. Rather than talking past each other, they engaged in genuine intellectual combat. The narrow victory margins with several judges show that even artificial intelligence struggles with America's deep political divisions, suggesting these are genuinely complex issues without easy answers. Subscribe for more epic AI political battles where logic meets ideology.